I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball this year on getting everything done for spring. So probably not going to see most of these videos until June. I can shoot all the footage, but it takes a lot of time to edit them and get them out. So I'm sorry that this is going to be shown to you about a month or so, or 3 weeks minimum after I've actually done all these things. So, but anyway, this year it's one of those things where I always get anxious and feeling overwhelmed in the spring with all the stuff to do, and then you add in that late winter storm we had that knocked all the trees down and it made a big mess. So I'm even further behind. So I'm cleaning up all the messes and then trying to get stuff done. Which, you know, I actually thrive on chaos. So I'm telling you I'm overwhelmed, and it's true, but I actually thrive on chaos because it just gives me like things that I know I got to do. So maybe some of you can relate to that. But anyway, what I've got now is I got the cows, the little cows out. And this area on the back of the barn is where I put the turkeys. So I've had them up in the little chicken house with all the little brooders until now. Now they're about this big. So what I'm going to do is, for the moment, I've got some pullets that are kind of big. I'll put them down here with the turkeys. And I've never had issue with blackhead or whatever they call it that sometimes turkeys get. I've done this for a long time. I've mixed them together. Never had issues. So I kind of have them out back here. Cordoned off still, and then you know, the laying hens are in here. This is, if you were around last fall and winter, you saw that the little tiny cows were in here, and I finally put them out. But I had to take the drinker cup out because, for one thing, I don't have animals in here at the right times where the line is thawed out and they actually need water. So when I bring calves in here, they're on bottles and they're not drinking cold water. And then I had them in here in the winter, so they're not doing it. But I can put it back. It's not a big deal. But I took the faucet that was down there and put it up here. This is temporary. I'm going to take this out and put a head gate in. And so for right now, what I got to do is just move some stuff around. And I had to fix my feeder here. And I got that water to put together. So yeah, it's just a bunch of busy work. So if you want to hang around for that, please do. So one of the things I had done is I had saved all the old gates off the stalls. And then I just use them for temporary panels in here to make little stalls for the calves. These work really great. You know, Jerseys are super nosy. Excuse you. They're probably the nosiest cows. When I was a kid, there was a lot of sawmills right here in town. So you could basically take your tractor and go over there and park it and load. They'd bring you dump truck loads because they just wanted to get rid of it. They had just giant piles of sawdust. So that's not the case anymore. Now they figured out that they can sell it. We don't actually have any mills left here in town. I'm not sure what some of this extra stuff is, but here's our water, and I think the float's in it. Let's see. Through the hose, which is not enough. I've got a short. I use the Flexzillas. I like those a lot. So we'll get the little Flexzilla hose we'll put on there. Nail into float assembly, but it's already, you know, it's in there. So this is it right here. But you know, when you're using plastic, you don't need to use plumber's tape. This right here is a hose adapter because that's just I think it's an N. So, but when you got two plastics going together, you don't need to use plumber's tape. Right. Got this magnet that goes on here. You take this off, and what this does is this makes it so they can stick their head in there and get a drink, but they're not sitting on it. So birds will sit on this, obviously, and then they'll crap in it, and then your water is messed up. So I generally like to bring this up pretty close to the top, and so that's the lock nut there. So I moved the chickens, some of the chickens and the turkeys down back. There's a little bit of a gap around the door, and it wasn't a problem, but it's big enough for little ones to get through and maybe some critters. So I got some scrap lumber here, and yeah, I'm probably a hoarder because I never throw anything out. Or, I mean, nothing that I can use again for something. I mean, I obviously throw garbage out, but usually lumber, if it's bigger than, well, 1.5 feet, I keep it. If it's shorter than that, it goes in the kindling. But I'm going to go case out that door because I don't want them getting out or something else getting in. And I could not tell you where all these pencils go. They just go somewhere. Well, some people up here say 45.5. Pretty good sized gap, and it's one of those things where the barn was never built. The barn wasn't built square. I don't think they had one when they built it, because if you look at some stuff, you knew it was built wrong. But between it not being built square or level and it's settling, this is what you're using. You're not using a piece of 3/4 inch like you oughta. So I could probably get away with if I took this and ripped it in half. So I had like a kind of like a 2x2. That would work too. 2x2x2. I might have to because I gotta clear that other door. Looks like it does. I still got a gap there. Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah, it does clear it. So, see then, because I built this square, but you'd never guess. In fact, most time around here when I built something square and put it in, it looked stupid. I had to take it back out and redo it. I love these Torx construction screws. You just gotta be careful you don't wind them right in there, because you'll never get them out if you had to. But I build almost everything with screws. That way, if I gotta take it apart, it's a lot easier. Yeah, stave it all up. But I need a piece. And I got two pieces of cruddy 2x4 that aren't long enough, but I can just put them together. Get what I need. I need, looks like 79 inches will do it. Actually, this will probably work out because this piece right here is 72 inches, so it's 6 foot exactly. So this whole thing is just, you can see this wall has got a wee-wah to it, so it's just nothing. I don't even know where to start to get this thing squared up again. The house is sitting on trees, so they taper. They kind of squared them off, but they still taper, so the floors are crooked. And then you don't want to get tipsy and go walking around too much. So as I work on the fences, I get better and better at making it easier to put it all back together in the spring. So the poly rope is much better than poly wire for a couple reasons. Number one, it doesn't tangle so easily, and if it does, it's a lot easier to untie or untangle. It's also way more visible for the animals and you and whoever else comes around to see. So you'll see a few places around where I still have some poly wire in place, and where it's good is for areas where you've already got an existing sort of permanent fence, like woven wire or welded wire, something like that. What it's not good for is the main structure or the main fence that you've got up. So what you'll see is where I've got it is usually on top of a permanent fence. It's okay for that. But I hate it for the primary fence for the reasons I've already mentioned. Primarily, it's a mess. It tangles and it turns into a disaster. It frays easily. Here's two types right here. This is a T-post. It's a standoff insulator with this little clip. And generally where they'll break is one of these tabs will break off, or this will break off. So they're okay, but they're not my favorite. Another one is this shorter recessed one, which is a little stronger than the one above, but now you've got your wire closer to this. So if you've got any kind of angle coming away from the post, next thing you know, you're going to have a short. So it's not ideal. And I've tried a whole bunch of different stuff, and some of it was just because I wanted to try it on the YouTube channel and see how it worked to show you, and some of it was because I just didn't know what it looked like. It might be a good choice. So these insulators right here are ones that I bought because I thought they were fine. And it doesn't matter what kind of, whether you use poly rope or poly wire, it does stretch after a while. So I've got some neat little gizmos to show you about those, how to resolve that issue. So right here's an example of, for whatever reason, it just broke off right here. It's not like there was a heavy load on it or a tree fell on it. I couldn't tell you why it broke. All I could tell you is I came out just now and it's broken. So what I found, my favorite one is this one right here. It's really foolproof. I haven't had any of these break. So this just goes around the T-post, and then you positively secure it with this plastic nut. And these work really well. So let me show you. There's like little teeth that go together right there. So otherwise you'd get, you know, some kind of cross thread going on, but these little teeth mate together. And then once you mate that together, you can put the nut on. I mean, it still initially wants to cross thread, so you kind of have to be patient with it, but once it's on, it's on. It's not going to come off. And maybe they flex a little better. I don't know, but I've never had these break. They don't even break here. Now keep in mind, I haven't been using them as long, but a couple years. And so far, so good. So we'll use another one of these. They have some metal gizmos with some brackets you can use to make braces on the corners, but I hate them. I've bought a couple just to try, and in one of my videos I used them, but I really hate them. They're too much money and they're not worth the effort. So generally what I do is if I've got a strong corner that I need to keep intact, I'll sink a 4x4 or a cedar post in and use wooden bracing. Or, alternatively, because I live in Maine, and I never seem to not have rocks, you can put a rock in front of it. And I've got antique barbed wire everywhere on the old stone walls from the original homestead that was here. It's great when you get it mangled up in a mower. So by no means am I complaining, but this is just a shared reality of farming, is if it can go wrong, it will, and I promise you it'll happen at the worst time. Like this morning I woke up with a migraine where I was throwing up. Those of you who've been around, you know I was diagnosed with migraines from being around the burn pits in the desert. When you're on a farm, things break, and they don't care if you're sick or not. So, here I am. But I refuse to give up this lifestyle. It's like my one thing that I do that kind of like keeps me going. And these aren't the greatest on the corners. And the reason being is just how they're designed. They don't pull well on corners, so you kind of need these. Like I said, I thought I had more, but I guess I gotta order some more. See, what happens is it goes over and under, but when you pull this way, a lot of times it'll pull down and then it's off. So they don't work that great. So this like is the extended version of these. So these are good on corners that go kind of that way, because or if you've got like a woven wire in behind, it kind of brings it out. But now you're putting even more stress here and here. So they're not great, but sometimes they're what you need for the situation that you have. Lemon. So the gate hooks have springs generally inside them, so they'll take up some of the slack, but I got a lot of slack here, and it's this, which you can get on Amazon, and these are good because you can put them in an existing strand. You don't have to, some of them you have to like find the end of it and then go through, but these you don't have to. These you just put on and you twist it until you get the desired amount of tension, and then you latch it. And they're pretty cheap, but they are, in my opinion, awesome. So I've got some wild rose down here that keeps growing, and I like it, so I don't take it out, but it's very thorny. I mean, it wouldn't be a rose if it wasn't super thorny. It's worse than like a blackberry bush in my mind. Now, a lot of people will use these temporary fiberglass posts. So these are good in some instances, and I thought I got rid of most of them, but I did keep a few. I don't like them for a couple reasons. Number one, they're flimsy. Number two, the fiberglass ones, if you run your hand down there, you're gonna wish you'd never done that. You'll get splinters. After I put manure on this, and then it rained, after a few days later it looked like somebody took a green paintbrush and went across the pastures with it. At one point I had 2 strands all the way across here, but it became a real nuisance with the brush and the weed whacking and everything. So, oh, see, junk. That's how junky they are. I think, well, this area right here also is prone to the hottest sun of the day. So I think the plastic becomes brittle. And then couple that with the freezing temperature in the winter, I don't think the plastic can withstand the constant freezing and thawing. So they break. So this is one of the ones I was telling you about. You have to feed it through. So they work great initially, and you can just take this right here off and then latch it back on. But as long you have to, and you can put a wrench on this too, so you can have it in line, and then you can put a wrench and tighten it up. And what you do is you just take this off while you're tightening it, and then you put it back on when you have it where you want it. So they work okay, but they're not the greatest because of what I just said.